Hi, it's Cosmic Charles here, and I thought I'd show you another deck that I've been working on. After I played against the Mono White player in my most recent Poison Storm League, I realized that Mono White has a lot of options for drawing cards or recursion or things like that, and I was especially impressed with Idyllic Range. One of my favorite decks to play in Modern back when I played more Modern was Little Kid Luck. I really enjoyed the simplicity of the deck and it hit three things I'm always looking for in an aggro mid-range deck, and that's resilience, pump, and life gain. And the fact that the deck could just do that almost like through happenstance was what really drew me to it. And with idyllic Grange, that really makes this more possible. So this is a poor impression of a Gavany township, but it still very much has a lot of value. And when you look at Core Skyfisher, for example, who can return idyllic range to pump these creatures, you also have like 4 Grange, 2 Companion, 4 Thraven Spectre, that's 6, 10, 14 things for like drawing cards, and you have the Dawnbringer Cleric and the Safehold Delete that you can reset or use one of the modes on Dawnbringer Cleric again. So it really kind of helps Core Skyfisher be good more consistently. And pumping a lifelink cat or putting a +1 counter on any creature is like it's pretty good value in Pauper. And it combines very well with this card, which is Ramosian Rally. So Ramosian Rally says if you control the planes, you can tap an untapped creature, and it gives all your creatures +1/+1. So you run 30 creatures, so you're usually going to have a creature with Summoning Sickness you can tap freely, or the Vigilance on Militia Bugler. So you can do it for 0 mana. It's a very good tempo play, which helps with the clunkiness of the deck sometimes, because you are trying to like cast all these 2-drops in a deck dominated by 1-drops and 0-drops, or in a format dominated by 1-drops and 0-drops. But one of the things that really helps this strategy, I found, is a Greatsword tier, and this is actually why I've decided to build this or get into the mono white archetype, because I realized Greatsword tier was very good in that white red Cobblade deck that I had built. But the problem is mono double colors and mid-range aggro is so hard to do in Pauper. The problem is that the lands enter the battlefield tapped, so you have to either have a way of making up for the tempo loss, like in some way, like having giant creatures like Black Red Sack, for example, could make up for that tempo loss pretty frequently just by unearthing a goblin dude that makes 2 goblins and pumping your field like crazy. So you can overcome that loss, or you need to find some other ways of just overcoming the tempo loss from the top nature. And this deck isn't really a fast aggro deck; it's trying to grind with the opponent. So you really need to have mono colors for that. Now I know Idyllic Range enters the battlefield tapped, or can if the battlefield tapped, but your curve's low enough that 4 tap lands with 17 untapped lands shouldn't matter. Most of the time, it's worth running 4 Idyllic Range. Yeah, so I'll just get a little more into the deck here quickly as a quick deck tech. So here we have Recommission, which is a 1-up. It's pretty good, as it's almost like a bit of a graveyard toolbox type strategy if you collect multiple of these effects. But the real value of the deck is its resilience. It reminds me a little bit of Little Kid Luck in that regard. You have the Persist effect from Safehold Delete. Sacred Cat gets around counter and persist from the graveyard. You have Lunarch Veteran, which is persist from the graveyard as well, and you have all this incidental life gain in the cat, the veteran, and the Dawnbringer. So you're just filling up multiple roles very well. You have this Greatsword tier, Ramosian Rally, and Grange for pump. Greatsword tier is very good at pump. You typically want to get it early to keep getting those +1 counters on when you can. Ramosian Rally can be mini anthem, or it can be protection, or it could be a combat trick. So it's just a very versatile card, and it costs 0, so it helps you grind more with those lower to the ground decks that you see in Pauper, because you are trying to grind. And Militia Bugler, of course, is just very strong. With 30 creatures, you're always going to hit it, and of those 30 creatures, all of them either replacing themselves with more creatures or cards, or they recur. So it's except for Dawnbringer Cleric. So it's it'd be very difficult to run out. Yeah, so that's the deck. The sideboard hasn't really been tested all that well. I do think you're just dead in the water to certain decks, but yeah. So I thought I'd show one game that I played with the deck. It was a 35-minute game, so it was pretty long and showcased the deck pretty well. It was against Jeskai Caw-Gates, so stick around if you're interested. All right, and here we are, game one against Cranial 95. I really like that avatar. I wish I had that bear avatar. It looks so nice. I don't know how they got that, though. Yeah, anyway, let's take a look at this opening hand. I can't keep it. It only has one land, so I mulligan. And this is much better. It's 3 lands, lots of action. Yeah, seems good. Hopefully I can get there in some smaller creatures for this curve, because right now I just have the Lunark. So I'll probably just put back a Plains here. And I'll press play and see how that went. They play a gate, naming blue, so they're definitely some form of Caw-Gate. And I play a Lunark Veteran. And they name red, so it is Jeskai Caw-Gate. So I get in there with my Lunark, and I resolve a Sacred Cat, gaining 1 life. They play a Squadron Hawks. They also are now going to try and go wide and populate the field. And now I land a Militia Bugler. I'm assuming they don't have Brainstorm because they tap their blue mana. And I grab a Sacred Cat, and I get in for 1. And they snap off that trade. I love trading with my creatures, even when they do that whole Dawnbringer trick, because I just run so many creatures. And I think any interaction with them is positive for me. So I cast Core Skyfisher, returning the Bugler, and playing another cat, gaining some life. And they pass the turn back. I get in. I don't play my Bugler here because it's pretty obvious they're holding a counterspell. And I'm hoping that maybe I can get another 2-drop so I can double spell on that turn. Because I don't want to play this Core Skyfisher. I cast it here just because I don't want to wait forever. And I don't cast a Core Skyfisher because there's nothing of value for me to return. And I don't think it's worth it. And they preordain. And they pump their cat to a 4. I'll just take it here. That's a nice thing about incidental life gain in your deck. You can afford to take a couple hits and some combat tricks. So that Greatsword was fairly big. I'm very glad they tapped out and allowed me to play it freely. And also to resolve that Bugler. And they get in for 7. So this Greatsword is going to help me at least attempt to grind them out of the game. Oh, sorry, I'm not going to play the second Greatsword because I'm going to try and keep strands up in case, I need to fog a combat turn or something. And I choose to fog this turn. The problem is I know this deck also runs up to 4 copies of Prismatic Strands in the main. I don't know how many they run in the main now, but it could very well be 4. And I just return a land there so I can curve out. I do run, I believe, like 18 targets for Core Skyfisher. Oh yes, rather than returning the Bugler, I decided to continue to curve out because they showed me after I resolved the first Greatsword and possibly even the Core Skyfisher that they didn't have counter, so I just played my hand out there. And now that we've both hawked, this looks like it's going to be a nice grindy game here. They try to get in for 6. I just take it. And I drew a Mosian Rally. I'm going to try and use that as protection. They do run red mana. And I get in. And let's see what happens here. I tap down some of their creatures. Pump up my team. I'm pumping up my Hawk there because I don't want to have too many 1/1s on the battlefield at once. They get in for 6. And I take it. And now I play a Bugler, gaining a life. And picking up a Sacred Cat. And I start getting a little more aggressive with my swinging now that I have a better defense. And they go Prismatic Strands. Let's see what they'll do next turn. And that's what I mean. They can just strand you completely out of the game while just getting tons of life. But fortunately, Greatsword is, I think, on par with the power level of Basilisk Gate here. As you've, at least in this situation, as you can see, if not even more powerful, because I can spread out my pump over these long, extremely grindy games. Here they go for the Lightning Bolt. I respond with Ramosian Rally, and they use a counterspell. I like the fact they use counterspell there. Of course, I'd rather my Hawk stayed around, but I think that was a good interaction for me. And I gain some more life, and I equip the sword to the cat. I'm holding my Squadron Hawks back in case I want to shuffle my library again. And also to not, like, play too hard into, like, board wipe. And I crack a clue, draw another card, and there's a Grange. I decide just to pump the cat and get in. Leaving back 2 blockers. Now here it may have been a slight mistake because they do have flyers here. And I kind of tapped out of my flyer blockers unless I play a Squadron Hawk. Yeah, I play a Squadron Hawk. I like to have at least 1 flyer blocker in case something crazy happens with their gates. Like, you never know, maybe they'll run like Snap or something like that and just go like Snap, untap both gates and just do some kind of crazy pump or something. And they get in for 15 and I block. And I exhume my Luminous Fountain and I equip my Greatsword to my Hawk. Again, I don't want to have too many 1/1s on the battlefield, even with this Ramosian Rally. Which in this situation against Strands is not doing its best showing. But because no Anthem would really show very well against Strands. But it is a very, I have found him against in other matchups, it's been very good. And they pump their cat up to a 17, and I get in and block with my Hawk, gaining 1 life. I play a safe hold elite, and I'll pause here. So, safe hold elite is a pretty good draw there. The reason being is that it interacts really well with these +1 counters. So I can continually bring it back from the graveyard. When it dies with a persist, it comes back with a -1 counter. Should you remove the -1 counter, then it can die again. So I have Grange and Sword, so these effects work well with it. I can also reset it with Core Skyfisher. Alright, and I'll just press play. So I really hope to see some nice safe hold elite action this game. And we get in. Sorry, tap down his creatures and we get in. And I go for a cheeky little break check here. Of course he has it. He probably has another Strands in hand as well. If this is the 4 Prismatic Strands build. Hopefully we can make it so that it doesn't matter. And I block. And I gain some life because I'm not going to deck. Eventually he's going to run out of Strands. It's just going to happen. And it doesn't matter what his life total is at. My creatures get bigger every single turn. So it's just going to get compound. And there's Greatsword, and I tap down the Dawnbringer Cleric. And I play a Lunarch Veteran. He pumps the cat and gets in for 17. I elect to block. Lunarch much better as a Phantom in this situation. I cast my Phantom, and I equip, and I get in. They preordain, and they cast the Modern Age. To another preordain, and they pump the cat. I block, gaining 2 life for a safe hold elite, leaving the battlefield. And let's see if they'll let us reset it with the Greatsword here. Nope, they don't let it anymore. I guess once was enough. Alright, and I get in. Tapping down the Dawnbringer. Okay, they draw a card and loot, and they go Brainstorm. And now they can pump their cat to a 28. Pretty big. So I take it because I have 63 life, and I want to send a message. Alright, now I cast the Spirited Companion. Draw a card into another Greatsword. That's a great draw. And I'll equip to the Luminous Phantom. And as you can see, this deck just never seems to run out of fuel so far. I mean, when all your creatures replace themselves or draw cards, it's pretty hard for like 4 to run out of steam. And look at how big Ramosian Rally would be here. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11 damage. But unfortunately, they just have strands for days. I mean, they always do. And they get in for 28, and I block. Gaining 2 life, and they gain a bunch. And they draw some more. And I go Thraben Inspector. Draw a card into Lunarch Veteran. Equip, and I get in. Oh, I'm thinking about how to block. Or how to attack, rather. I'm pretty confident that I can't lose this game, that I will inevitably win. I know they have the mono white dude that has protect from monocolored, but at this point that doesn't matter because these cats are way over range. I can just keep gaining life. And they come in for 28, and I block with the Lunarch, gaining 2 life. And they play Collision Honor Guard. Notably, Greatsword ignores the Honor Guard because that is a triggered ability and not an activated ability. Okay, and I play a Spirited Companion, gaining some more life. And I exhume the Luminous Fountain, and we get in there. Time to party. And I tap down the Glider, and I tap down their Coalition Honor Guard. Let's see if they fog here. They don't. They just let it happen. They go Modern Age, discarding the counter spell. They pump their cat. It's now a 31-31. Now I block with my good boy. And I gain 3 life. They draw some cards with Deep Analysis. And I draw a Greatsword of Tyr. I equip to my Luminous Phantom. I get in there. And I take a little bit too long deciding here, I guess, because he just concedes the game. And because our clocks are so low, that was a match. All right. That was the game. Hopefully I'll see you again. Have a good one.